Hi, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Hi,
I'm,
Nina. No, that's okay. Can you
I'm
tell
having
us your name, which is Nina, and how long you've been
I'm,
with the Market Center?
I'm having problems with my computer, and I'm having to using the phone and go back and forth to a backup computer. But
Oh,
I'm good.
no.
I'm good. You already know me, so I'm here listening.
How long have you been with the office?
Oh, I came in March. March.
Okay. All
March.
right. Perfect.
Fi- Yep.
All right. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize you guys. So I have more access to the screen. And you guys all know Anna, I'm sure, our main girl. So we're going to go ahead and begin. The way that I want to start off is first and foremost, it is super important that you make sure that within command, you click on your name at the top right, you go down to settings, and you'll see it on the screen, you'll have integrations. And Docusign is normally the first one that pops up. It's super important you make sure that this says connected. That way you ensure that the connection between command and Docusign is there. Now, something else I'm going to show you guys is a best practice. When you are going to go into Docusign, it's normally because you are ready to get some document prepared and have your client or future client sign it, right? Now, the best way to do that is by making sure that you create an opportunity here in Command before going to Docusign. Going to Docusign.com is an option, always will be, but it is not the best practice. And the reason why is because when you create a Docusign room, you've now created one independent room. Then when you create an opportunity, you end up creating a second room. And what happens there is you end up getting yourself confused. I have seen it time and time again. Agents will create multiple rooms and don't know where all their documents are. So today is going to be focusing on making sure you guys have the best practices and allowing you guys to ask any questions that you have along the way. So we're going to go ahead and create an opportunity. And how you do that is first, you got to make sure that you have this potential client in your database. Now, before I find a client to work with, ladies, would you like to work with a buyer or a seller today?
Let's do seller.
Seller. All right, cool. So we're gonna work with a seller. I'm gonna go ahead and look for. This mouse is a little crazy, so forgive me. All right, we're gonna create a contact. I'm gonna add my son in here. So Ezekiel Jimenez, we're gonna do his email. And this is all fictitious for the moment, right? But in real life, you're gonna enter all their actual information and you wanna make sure that you tag them appropriately. So since we're working with a seller, we're gonna add seller. Now, once I've created the contact, you're gonna see that it'll bring you to your contact card. To the right, you have the opportunities tab. You're gonna go ahead and click that and then click create opportunity. So again, this is me showing you best practices to make your workflow easier, not frustrating, okay? So we're gonna create opportunity. You're gonna see the opportunity type checklist. So it's asking, is it a listing, a buyer, a landlord, or a tenant? Now Ezekiel is gonna be selling his home, so we're choosing listing. But if he were to rent out his home, he'd be landlord. It is extremely important that you choose the correct checklist because it will provide the right documents that we need for the related transaction type. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose listing. I have my client here. If there was a co-seller, they'd be here. Now, best practice for an opportunity name is never this. Okay, in our compliance world, it is much easier if you name the opportunity by its address. Now, when you are creating an opportunity for a seller, you already have that address, right? We already know he's going to be selling 123 Main Street. Okay, now if we don't know the address because it's a buyer, you can go ahead and leave it as first name, last name, buyer until later on in the transaction. Okay, but in the very beginning for a listing, always go ahead and make sure that you are naming the opportunity the actual street address. Next thing it's asking you for is what is your commission? So I know what I'm going to be charging Ezekiel. I'm going to be charging him this amount. And so I'm going to enter it there. This can be changed later. As we know, negotiations happen. We don't always bring both sides, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just know that this is right at the beginning, but it can always be changed when it comes time to enter your commission. All right. Then you have the opportunity phase. So am I cultivating? Is it an appointment or is it active? We are going to go ahead and do appointment. And I'm going to say that we scheduled the appointment. Now I'm going to hit create. I'm going to try. Gotta move my taskbar. Okay. Once I hit create, now the opportunity lives here. From this moment forward, I'm going to be running through really quickly because I will be teaching this entire experience next week, which is how to get paid. So tune in next week for that. But I'm just going to run through this so we can jump straight into Docusign. So I'm going to select my opportunity. And when I do that, it's going to open up a new tab. And I'm going to click on Documents. Now, when I click on Documents on the left-hand side, it's going to say Pick Checklist Type. And it's going to give you different options. In this case, single family home is what he's selling. And now you're going to have 3 different checklists. You have listed, under contract, and closed. Right now, we're at the listed phase. Why? Because I need to get my listing agreement signed. Now you'll see here, there's going to be some documents that are required or conditional. This is so important for you to keep open because of the fact that you want to be sure if you forgot what document you needed from Docusign, you can always head right back here and make sure that you get whatever is related to your transaction. So with that being said, I'm going to jump here to the right and hit Start a Transaction. And what this will do is you will get a new tab that will open up, and it's going to be your Docusign tab. Now let's jump right into best practices for Docusign. Number 1 is the Details tab. When you are working with a listing, you want to go ahead and hit this edit button. Make sure that the seller information is put inside of the system, which it brought it over from command. Just want to double, triple check that. And then you can go ahead and enter the property address. And the reason why is because you know that this is your listing. And so it's not like you're going to be creating other offers or anything like that. It's always going to remain 123 Main Street. So you can go ahead and enter that info. However, for a buyer, I do not suggest that you enter the property address when you are going to be creating a contract, because this will auto-populate onto the forms, which makes it a little bit more difficult when it comes time to creating a new offer with a new address. So for listings, you can go ahead and enter it, but for buyers, I do not suggest that you do. All right, so I went ahead and I filled that out. I come over here. Is there a seller too? Adding them in there if there is. Listing agent, I'm showing up as the agent. And then down here, there's a second listing agent, and then you have buyer 1 and buyer 2. But right now, we're not at that portion or that stage of the transaction, so I'm only going to enter the information that I have and hit save. So the first thing I did was hit the details and went ahead and filled as much as I could out. Then I'm going to jump into documents. Now, when you jump into documents, you're going to see that there's a couple of forms that'll start populating for you. Okay. Now, these forms are all pulling in based on the checklist that we have here in command. Okay.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Okay, yeah, I'm driving, so that's why you're not seeing my mugshot. But
Okay. What's up?
Ezekiel was selling, right?
Yes.
Why is it all of a sudden, I just noticed this too, is now it's loading an as-is contract. Then I have to go through and delete it. Why is it not?
Well, the reason why we've added the as is because at some point, if you bring in a buyer, you already have it in there. But you'll see it is in alphabetical order, and you just have to come here to the listing agreement. Now you can delete it if that's what you want to do. You definitely don't have to keep it in there.
So we've done away with the sales pending package that was on the side that I could just pick all the forms from there to just keep my folder clean?
No, we have not done away with it. What's happened here is, and I'm going to be 100% transparent with you guys. We had a lot of new agents that their files would come back rejected because they were not aware, for example, in a 55 and older community that they needed the HOPA addendum. right? They're not aware, or they didn't remember that they needed their lead-based paint. They, you know what I mean? So what we did was we just went ahead and added the majority of the forms that you may need for a transaction in here, so no one can say that they forgot. So
Got
that's
it.
why this is here. Now, to answer your question, when you hit add and DocuSign forms, you will still have the packets on the left. And I'm updating all of them today to reflect the modification to the compensation agreement or the compensation agreements, both different types. So I'm making sure that all of that is added. It'll be updated by tomorrow for all offices, but all of these packets are still relevant. So you can come over here and just make sure. So for example, here, let's say listing, or this one here. Anything that you might need, you can drag from here, or anything that isn't in the other forms is gonna be in here. Now, I do wanna bring something up. The listing agreement that's here is not the updated one. And the reason why is because I haven't completed the update in the opportunities checklist on the back end. So don't use that one. You want to jump into add DocuSign forms. And when you come to packets and you go to that listing one, this will be the latest and greatest. So you see this one is the 20 TB. So you can select it, add selected, and now that's your new one. Which means I'm going to show you guys how to delete a document that you don't need. I know I don't need this one, so you select the checkbox and just hit the trash can. Okay. Now, Tony brought up something really great about organization. Did somebody have a question on Zoom? Sorry.
Yeah, I do. So I'm I'm the listing agent. I got the listing and I used the old one. Do I have to update the new one?
How long ago did you get the listing?
I got the listing in July 27. It's already under the contract. I just signed the contract today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry, the camera fell and I can't reach the TV, guys. Hold on. I want to answer the question by saying, yes, you should have the new one. However, I would ask Adrian or put it in the chat. So Natasha or Adrian can answer just to be sure, considering it's under contract. I don't know.
Okay.
When is the closing?
9/9
Oh, which is after the whole.
after, yeah.
If I could give you an opinion, and I am not a broker or a broker associate, nothing like that, but if I can give you an opinion, I'm gonna say to be safe, maybe you should do the new one.
New one. Okay.
Yeah, but still confirm with Adrian, because again, I am not a broker, so don't take my words literal.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
But great question. Thank you for asking. Okay, so let's talk about organization. So as you can see here in the room docs, you have 14 documents. Now, out of these documents, you may not need all of them, and I'll give you examples. Let's say 123 Main Street is not in a homeowner association neighborhood, right? There's no HOA. I can go ahead and remove the HOA, and I can remove the condo rider. Oops, sorry. Why? Because I don't need it. It's not in an HOA. It's not going to be relevant to this transaction. So I'm going to delete those. Oops, seems like I only selected one. There we go. Let's say this seller is only accepting cash. Well, I can go ahead and eliminate FHA/VA, because if I'm only accepting cash offers, I don't need that. It is not in a 55 and older community. You guys get my drift, right? Start going through deleting what you don't need. Then let's talk about the preparation of the documents. Something that I've been seeing lately is that my agents, you guys are selecting the document and creating an envelope. That is not the best practice. Let's get straight to the listing agreement. So that's the first document that we're going to be sending out, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select it. And when it opens up, you're going to see that it's fillable. So you can go ahead and fill it out all right here within the Documents tab. Now, once you've filled it out here and you hit Save and Close, then you create the envelope. And here's why I'm explaining it this way. I had an agent, 2 agents, as a matter of fact, this week, who I've had Zoom calls with because they were saying that their documents, they kept having to write in the information. They had to make corrections, but the form would come out blank, so they had to redo the whole thing. When I got on the Zoom calls with them, I realized that they are doing it the way that I showed you first, which is they select the document, create the envelope. What happens when you do that is the envelope does not communicate. So you see these tabs up here? Envelopes does not communicate to documents. But documents does communicate with envelopes. So if you have it filled out under the Documents tab, you will have it where it'll save for you. Because remember, at the bottom and at the top, it says Save and Close. So by saving it, if you did have to come back and make a correction, you can easily do it within the Documents tab. Okay, so once you've done that and you've filled out all of the documents that you need to send out, so let's give the example. Here are the things that I personally would send to my seller or present to my seller during my listing appointment when I want to get my listing agreement signed. I'm going to attach my listing agreement. If it's pre-78, I'm going to get that lead-based paint signed. Down here, I'm going to get my seller's property disclosure ready and my wire fraud prevention ready. So in the sake of this first packet that you're providing, you come in, you click into each document within the Documents tab, you fill it in. Once you've completed the fill-in, you select the documents that you desire, and then we create envelope. When you create envelope, you're going to see a multitude of recipients. Now, keep in mind, depending on where you're at in the transaction, which in this case, we're at the very beginning, buyer is unnecessary to select. So I know I'm selecting listing agent and I'm selecting seller 1 because that's all I have in these set of documents, right? I don't need anybody else. Then I'm going to hit continue. When I hit continue, it'll now bring me to the envelope stage where you can add or remove documents. You can add or remove recipients. Did we have a question? Okay. All right. So here you have your documents. Now, one thing that is super cool is you can rearrange the order. Right now, the first document they'll see is the seller's property disclosure. That is not the first thing I want them to see. I want them to see the exclusive right of sales listing. Then we can get into the other ones. I don't care the order of the other ones, but for sure I want them to see this first. So I'm going to move it. And all I did was I clicked on the gray area. So not on view, but in the gray area. And I drag and drop. Drag and drop it where you'd like. Any questions on this portion before I keep going? Any questions? Oh, no? Then down here, you have the section where you add recipients. Look. You have listing agent and you have seller 1. So let's talk about listing agent. You see how listing agent shows up first? I'm not a big fan of that. I want my seller to go ahead and sign their documents first. So you see how all I did was same thing. I clicked over here and I drag and drop. Now it rearranges this order. Okay, no, it's not. Okay, so let's rewind. I don't know why that's not working, but we're gonna go ahead and do the signing order and put yourself as the listing agent second and your seller first. And now that fixed on itself. Okay, cool. So let's talk about signing order. Signing order is going to be something that is very important, especially when you're sending it to multiple clients. Because in the case of, let's say, a husband and a wife, if you send it to husband first, but husband doesn't really check his emails, not until husband checks it, signs it, will the wife get it. So this signing order is really important to make sure you get it right. Which means if you know wife is the one who answers the emails the fastest, wife needs to be number 1. Husband number 2, or wife and wife, husband, whatever, and then whoever comes next, okay? Now you will be able to determine that signing order by just changing the numbers here, okay? Another big important piece about this box is these are the permissions. So you can have them receive a copy, they need to view it. If you're gonna give them permission to edit, that kind of thing. All of this can be done right here, and then the documents will be prepared and sent out based on the permissions given. Any questions on the recipient portion before I move on?
Can you show me again how like agent, not agent, the seller can edit anything or delete it?
Right here, where you say, where it says need to sign,
Okay.
you can hit allow to edit, but just keep in mind, if you hit that button, that means they can change any line that you filled in the document. So that means if they want to go into compensation and change it to one apple, they
Mhm.
can, right? So you want to be very careful as to what we're allowing them access to. Okay, there's going to be certain places in the document, if they say, hey, I want to be able to add XYZ when it comes to the furniture that we're staying or whatever. Okay, great. You can create a text box that will give them permission to only fill that piece out, which I'll show you guys in a second once we complete this portion. But these are the permissions. They're to the right of the recipient type. So this is the recipient type, and then to the right of it is the permissions. All right, then down below, this is where it can get very messy once you start sending out a lot of documents to sign. You see how this says complete with Docusign, and all it includes is seller's property disclosure. I would put listing agreement package, spelled properly, of course, and their address. Do something where the client will receive it and know what they're getting, as well as if you needed to go back to an envelope and look for something, you know what you sent out. Okay, just keep in mind your email subject line is what the client will see as well. So very important that you don't use any type of language that is meant only for you. Make sure that it's something that the client can see as well, okay? Now, once you've done that, you're gonna hit next. Now, this is the portion where I want you guys to think of an envelope, like a true envelope. You stick a letter in an envelope, you go to the post office, or you leave it in your mailbox. The moment the mail person comes to grab that envelope, you're probably at work, you can't see that they're there, which means you can't chase the mailman. This is your last opportunity to double and triple check your documents, that they are correct, that spelling is correct, you've entered the right sellers, the right address, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, this is the opportunity. Because I will tell you, it's a much worse conversation to say, hey, Mr. Seller, I messed up on something, than it is to just triple check, okay? Now, once you're here, I wanna show you guys a little tip. On the right-hand side, the first document, you'll see the title here. If you click on that, it will now give you the list of all the documents that you've included in this envelope. So we have 4 different documents that we've included. So if I need to review, let's say, the lead-based paint disclosure, I can click it and then click on the page and it'll bring me straight to the document, okay? Now, I do suggest going through every single document before you hit that send button, all right? Now let's talk about the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, you have the name of the first recipient. That first recipient in our case is our seller. Now, if I click the drop down, you'll now see any additional recipients that are included in this envelope. In this case, it is just me, the listing agent, and Ezekiel, my seller. If I needed to change who I needed to give access to make any edits or a signature, etc., I click my drop down and I choose the recipient. So in your case, Ms. Patel, let's talk about here in the listing agreement, there's going to be some additional terms, right? If I wanted to give the field or give my seller the field to make it editable, what you would have to do is make sure that their name is selected, scroll down, and you'll see text box. Now, when you see text box, they can come and you can just draw it out. Now, a little tip, if you right click or you hit Control C, you hit copy and then paste. And now you're gonna get that same line, okay? So you can just copy and paste. So this is a way to make it editable. Now, something to keep in mind, if you are gonna give text box to your clients, make sure that they enter something in the box. Even if they choose, you know what, I actually don't have to fill it out, they need to put something, whether it's a punctuation mark, whether it's an A, whatever it is. But the reason why I say that is until the yellow boxes are complete, DocuSign will keep kicking it back, letting them know their form is not complete. So you want to make sure you're having those conversations with your clients. Technology gets frustrating because we don't have the right conversations. We're not training our client on how to use the technology to make it a seamless process, which means you have to know what it looks like. My suggestion and my challenge to all of you is send yourself DocuSign forms. You need to see what it's like for your client, so when they receive these documents, they know exactly what to do because you've already instructed them. Or if they pick up the phone and ask for help, you know how to help them. All right, so that is how you can add editable text boxes based on the recipient. Now, let's say I needed to add something and I don't have a box for it, but I need to add it anyways. Let's say right here, on top of structures, systems, and appliances in the seller's property disclosure. If I come to the left, there's a pencil that's called the pre-fill tools. Now, this pre-fill tools allows me to do uneditable items, such as a text box, checkbox, a radio button. A radio button is this, where you have the options, the name, the company, or a line. So let's say in the case of a counter offer situation, you choose line, cross out your item, right? Now this will not be editable because it's a pre-fill tool. And as you can see, there's no color, which means it's gray. It's not going to be editable. But if I need his initial, I come back up and this is standard fields. Now this is going to be all the fields that I can allow my recipients to do something with. So I come here and I click on initials and I bring it next to the cross out. Let's talk a little bit about this initial size box. This thing is huge. Yeah, it's huge. You do not want to leave your initial boxes when it comes to corrections and things like that this large. You want to bring them down in size, okay? Another thing you don't want to do is have them overlap any words in the contract. Our compliance department will reject the document and will ask you to redo it and to have it all signed all over again, filled out all over again. So you can avoid those delays by making sure that you are not placing any type of signature text boxes, initial boxes over any words, and make sure that they're not so big that they could potentially block something else, okay? Any questions so far before I move on? Vegan.
Yes, baby. I was having a question when I filled up the, for example, the leases.
Okay.
You know, like there is a part that you need to click inside. And I was doing it, and then I learned it and I forgot it.
Like a checkbox that you have to
Yes,
click or
yes,
something like
yes,
that?
yes.
That's a great question, yeah. So and I'm not gonna jump back, but when you're in the documents tab, let's say this, you double click. So if there is a document that requires you to select a checkbox, the way that you do that is you go to the checkbox, double click.
Okay.
That's it. And then it'll double click and it'll check off for you.
Oh, okay, double click.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, if your client is the one that has to make that selection, you create a radio button. So down here,
Yeah, check.
you'll see radio, and it gives them the option to choose. So you'll place it in the first box, then right here, this plus sign, you drag it over. And so now they'll live where the client needs to decide.
So that I was doing it wrong because that's what I was doing. And I said, why is not filling it out?
Yeah, so the radio button gives the person the option.
The
So
option.
even if you double click or whatever, it's just gonna give them the option. But if you know what you're selecting,
Yes,
then all you have to do is double click it.
double click.
Yeah.
Because you know, when you fill it out the list, you as an agent, you have to click, check some.
Yes,
And that I was having a lot of issues with
yeah,
that.
so
this-
that, you do it in the documents tab. So right now we're in the envelope, but you do that when you're filling out the document, you can double click the
Double
checkbox.
click,
Mhm.
okay.
Great question. One thing I want to show you guys and the power of doing the best practices the way I showed you guys right now by going into the details, making sure the recipients are there and all of that is, can you imagine doing radio buttons for all of these questions? No, right? Like the amount of time that you would be wasting, in all honesty. This is not an intentional job at all. You shouldn't have to do these radio buttons. And yet I have a lot of agents who go around the best practice and go straight here. But I promise you, I'm making your lives easier and a little less frustrating at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday when you have to fill something out. So doing the best practices is truly going to help your workflow. So right here, you'll see that the the seller will be able to select one of the options, okay, enter any text box, et cetera, and then they have their initials at the bottom. And then you'll see here, we have the lead-based paint disclosure, gives your initials and signature where you need to sign and date, gives them the wire fraud, so everything's here. Now, I want to go back and just cross-reference command really quick, because remember I told you that for the listing side, the very first couple things I'm going to do are these 4 documents. Let's go look. So we have the listing agreement, the seller's property disclosure, the wire fraud prevention notice. So I have 3. Oh, yeah. They're over here bringing 8. All right, sorry. And then lead-based paint. You see how lead-based paint isn't all the way at the top? Because it is conditional. If the property is pre-1978, that is when we require it. And if you ever wanted to know what would make it conditional versus required, there is a little I that gives you information. So it says condition required if property is pre-1978, which is why I added it here, because I, as the listing agent, did my due diligence and saw the year that the property was built. So I'm immediately giving these documents to my seller. Now, Tony, I saw your hand was raised, but I don't know if that was old or new. Feel free to unmute.
No, that was old. You answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, cool. If anybody else has a question, feel free to unmute. Okay. Yes, so guys, I want to talk to you next week. I am going to be teaching the how to get paid class, but this is not just any old how to get paid class. This is going to include all the brand new checklists. See what you're missing? See what you're missing because you're not in the market center. But I'm glad you guys are on Zoom. It's okay. I'm glad you guys are on Zoom. We're glad you're here. So you guys are going to see different checklists coming soon. Right now, I only have it updated in the Pembroke Pines office. It was my beta office. And now by Friday, you will see all of the new checklists as well as the new documents that we are requiring. So make sure you come to the class next Thursday at 1 o'clock. If you come on Zoom, great. In person is always going to be best. I will suggest you come in person, but there's a lot of new stuff to talk about. And I want to be sure that you guys are ready for all the new things that are happening before that August 17th date. Okay. So back to Docusign. Do we have any questions? You guys can feel free to ask any questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Debbie,
Sure.
when you get the Docusign already signed and you get it back all signed, can you make a change in it?
No. No, you can't. And the reason now, you can't make a change within the envelope or the documents tab. If
Okay.
there has to be a correction, you can absolutely upload the PDF. So let's say I'm the listing agent, buyer's agent sends me the offer, my seller counters the offer, and now I have to create a correction. What you can do is you can come into envelopes, hit new. Add your PDF. I'm going to add any PDF for the sake of this. Whose that is, but we're going to use it. Then here, you see how here the recipient did not come up, and that is why from a PDF, Docusign does not know who the recipients are because it is not a Docusign form. So you have to select the recipient. And I'm going to give you another little trick when it comes to Docusign. If you have the recipient box that comes up blank, you can go ahead and choose the address box. room contacts, and anybody that you entered into the details tab will populate here. So I'm gonna go ahead and select my seller, hit apply selected, and now I have them here. And then again, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna make sure I name it counter offer 123 Main Street. Once I've done that, I hit next. Now, when I hit next, I'm gonna see my document here. And let's say it's the price that I have to correct, right? This is okay, so right here. So if I have to adjust the price because my seller does not want to agree to that price, not a problem. I'm gonna come down here to pre-fill tools. I'm gonna grab my line. I'm gonna do my cross out. My next step is I'm gonna select a checkbox. I'm gonna bring it right near the line that it has to be. I'm gonna kind of adjust the size a little bit. On the right-hand side, I have a text box that makes it really easy to type into. So let's say instead of 1045, we want 999. There you go. Oops, sorry, that was my fault. Then after that, you can click out and now that correction's there. But my next step is adding the initial. So when I come here, I go back up to standard fields. I go to the right, hit initial, and I add the initial here. Okay. Then once you do that, you hit send. So this is the one way to do it. Now let's say it's your listing agreement. And let's say your seller signed it, but then saw, oh, you know what? I don't want to pay this amount in a transaction fee. We need to change this. The best bet for you, the best practice would be for you to come back into the documents tab and just correct the amount and send them a brand new listing agreement. Okay, I do not suggest there, and I'll show you guys something now once this loads, sorry. Okay. You go. Oh. Sorry, hold that thought. Okay, I'm actually gonna go to a different room. Hold on 1 second. I need to go to a room where I sent an actual envelope, so give me just a moment. Okay, so in the envelopes tab, you're gonna see the list of envelopes that you've ever sent out will pop up here. So let's say this one that's still waiting for others. When you click into the envelope, there's this nice button here that says correct. But as your Market Center tech trainer, as someone who handles many different calls related to Docusign, I do not suggest you touch this button. And here's why. I get about a 50-50 of it working and it not working. For the sake of your client and your sanity, my best practice, if the seller says, hey, I need you to change this, but I already signed the document, instead of making a correction, you will come into the documents, you will select the document that you need. Sorry, hold on. Let's say this one. If it's already filled in, because you filled it out here before you sent out the envelope, everything you put in is gonna be saved. And all you would have to do is go to the line that needs the correction and you enter whatever you need to correct. Then you hit save and close. Once you've corrected it within the documents tab, now you're ready to send them that envelope again. Okay, so you select the document that you just corrected that needs to be sent, create the envelope. It's gonna ask you who the recipients are, choose whoever it needs to be.
Hi.
Oh,
you guys are doing the training?
Yes. And then from there, it's gonna bring you back to that envelope section where it allows you to add a document, where you can add additional recipients if needed. Okay, you just wanna be sure that the recipient selected was the one that needs to be in this and they sign. Remember to come down here. So I would name this correction to listing agreement and then the property address. Okay, once you've done that, you hit next. And now you're here, and now it's gonna already populate. So my best practice is do not hit correct. Please just redo it in the documents tab by editing whatever needs to be fixed and sending out another document, another envelope. It is the one thing that I know 100% of the time works versus the other one is 50-50. So I hope that answered your question. I know it was a little long-winded, but I felt like I needed to give you context.
Thanks.
All right, do we have any other questions?
I have a question on Docusign.
Sure.
But it's completely separate, it's this but separate.
What is it?
If I needed to find documents,
Great.
where do I go to find FAR documents?
I love that question. So here to the right, we have the add button. When you hit add, you're gonna have multiple options. You're gonna choose DocuSign Forms. Choosing DocuSign Forms allows you to pre-fill it in the Documents tab. It allows that whole recipient section to be done for you and all of that. So I will always advise you choose DocuSign Forms when you are starting something out. Now on the left, let's talk about it. We have packets and we have libraries. Remember, Tony talked about packets earlier. Now these are updated by the office. So any document that's in here will go ahead and update automatically from the board or from FAR as long as it's already in the packet. But I'll give you an example. The buy side right now doesn't have the compensation agreement or the modification to compensation. Why? Because we've never had it in the packets, so we have to manually add them. But now moving forward, anytime it gets revised, it'll update automatically. With that being said, I am not a huge advocate of relying on packets. Why? Because I like to know where to find things myself, right? So Anna, that was a great question. The best place to come to is libraries and you hit FAR. When you hit FAR, let's say we are working with a buyer. I can type in buyer and now I'm gonna get a plethora of documents. And I want you guys to write something down for me, everybody on Zoom, Carmencita, Anna. When it comes to the buyer brokerage agreement, the buyer brokerage document you will be using is the EBBA_7TB. Now, I shared some YouTube videos from Natasha last week regarding the new updates and the new forms that came out. So please make sure that you guys watch those videos because in the description, you will find every document that she talks about as well as the form number that she uses, okay? So that's just a little tip for you guys personally. I know it gets confusing when you're in here looking at all these documents. Now, after you've selected whatever documents you need, so let's say that EBBA, you select it, and then you just hit add selected and it'll get added to your room.
For anyone on Zoom or Carmencita here, if you do not see the FAR documents in your DocuSign, please come to talk to me because we need to get you set up. It means you're not talking to the board.
Yep.
To FAR. So if you have problems, contact me.
Great, Anna, thank you. So what she's referring to, guys, is if you jump into DocuSign Forms and you don't see FAR under libraries, that means you're not integrated, so DocuSign doesn't know that you're a licensed agent. So basically, they only give access to agents who have let the system know, hey, I'm an actual agent, here's my NRDS ID. All right, so this FAR folder is so important for you guys. Make sure you guys know how to access it. You also have the MAR, which is the Miami Association of Realtors. This is great, especially when you are a listing agent. If you need to find a status change form, you need to find anything like that, you can find it under the MAR folder. But if you're looking for just Florida forms, just use FAR. Okay, let's kind of close it with organization. So I came into this room because I wanted to show you guys, I create folders. So this is a real life tenant of mine. I have their IDs, their pay stubs. I have over here signed documents that they've done. I have room documents, which are just my forms that I need, right? Now, how you create a folder, I want to start with the why. Imagine I have 7, 13, 3, 1, 1. So we're talking like 26 forms, okay, that are in this room. Now, normally they would all live under room docs. but that drives me crazy. So what I do is I come to actions, add folder, and I'll give you the ones that I always do. I do signed. I already have one, so I can't add it. Then I do certificates. Now let's talk a little bit about the certificates. If you've never seen a Docusign certificate, I'm gonna show you right now. A Docusign certificate can help you guys get out of a lawsuit. If somebody ever tried to say that you forged their signature. And that's a real life story. An agent in one of our offices, there was a lawsuit against her. The seller was claiming that she forged all of the listing document agreement, like the agreements and all of that. Guys, sorry, I'm on Zoom. So with that, here you'll see the signer events. So it shows you each recipient that you sent out an actual Docusign envelope to. And most importantly, it gives you their IP address, their timestamp, when they viewed it, when they signed it. Okay, this is not something you want to delete. Okay, do not delete. And so with that, I create my certificate folder because after you send out a couple of envelopes, you're gonna get a lot of these and they can kind of wear down and bring down your room and get a little confusing. So I always just create it and I move it over into that folder. This is gonna help you tremendously when it comes time to uploading in Command. But one thing I wanna let you guys know is if you are gonna be creating the folders, which I hope you do, when you come to Command, you're gonna see attach files from. It'll say Docusign, but then on the right, you have to ensure that you're choosing the folder that you created for your signed documents. Something that I do all the time, and I'm actually gonna jump into that opportunity so you guys can see it. I have a bad habit of creating the folders and then forgetting to change the folder in Command, and I'm like, what? I know I have documents. So I wanna save you guys from that. Working folder, make sure you are choosing the correct. Once you have your signed folder, you'll see that the drop downs will now have every signed document that was in there. Okay, so super important if you're creating folders, that way you make sure that you give yourself the access to it. All right, any questions before we end today's today's class? Carmencita, anything?
I like the part that the one that you just showed.
With the folders?
Yeah, with the folder, but in the right hand side, but the problem I was having, it was like when I have duplicates, because didn't have name, I didn't know which one it was, because he only said, because sometimes like that, if, for example, he will say, wire, bra. But
Okay,
I don't know if it is designed, you know, like you have to.
oh, I can show
upload it-
you
Upload it in
in Command,
not in Command for the office.
in Command.
In Command, yes. So I went there, I said, oh my God, this is nice. But see, that I didn't know which one it was designed one.
Well, that's a great thing. So what Carmencita is saying is when she comes to Command to try to upload from Docusign, she couldn't tell which one was signed. Something for you guys to know is only the signed documents are what populate. So when you have, and I know exactly what you mean, Carmencita, because you'll have wire fraud here, which is a form. So the best way for you to know which is signed, which isn't, this is a form. So this means this is your edible one, but then sign, they're gonna have the green check mark. So in Docusign, you see right here, I have my wire fraud signed, which means when I come over here, my document will pop up here. So you see here, wire fraud signed.
Okay.
So it'll pop up for you, but only the signed documents will actually pop up. But great question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your best way. Always know, remember your green check, that means it was signed. And then your blue means that you can do it. Now, another question I get all the time is, let's say this is a buyer or a tenant and the offer fell through. And now we have to submit another offer. Here's the best practice. You create one opportunity under the tenant or the buyer's name. And then when it comes time to Docusign, until you get an executed offer, do not upload anything. Executed offer, meaning buyer and seller both agreed to go under contract for this property. That is when you upload here. Let's say you send out an offer for 123 Main Street, it falls through. Well, you didn't upload anything here, so you're good. All you have to do, you can create a folder and somebody, there's an attorney who works in Miami Beach who's also an agent with us. She goes, oh, I named those dead. So it's a dead offer,
It's a dead
right?
deal.
It's dead deal, so you can create a folder that says dead and move all of those documents to dead. Then you jump to your DocuSign forms and you can go ahead and redo all of them with the new address for the new
In the
offer.
same opportunity.
In the same opportunity in the same room. But remember, you're not uploading anything until
Anything.
something is executed.
Okay.
So even if it's a tenant, until you have a contract to lease that is executed by both parties, then you go ahead and upload. But if it's not executed, nothing for you to upload yet. Okay? I hope that made sense. That I will get into more next week. So remember, next week I'm gonna be going through the new checklist, all the new documents that are required and or conditional. We're gonna dive deep and make sure that you guys can get paid on time. So Zoom world, if you have no other questions, thank you for joining, but I will stay on for a minute or so if you guys do have a question. And then you can- Yeah.
Thank you, baby.
What you just said.
Thank you. Oh, wait, we got a question. Yes, Elaine.
Yes, what you said, if you create an opportunity, like right now, I'm doing it. This is a third offer for a rental, which is
Okay.
accepted. The prior two, I archived them.
The opportunities.
Yes,
Next
I
time,
don't
just
have to.
create one opportunity with their
Uh-huh.
name.
okay,
Do not upload anything. Do
which
not,
I didn't,
do not add a property under the details. Don't do any of that.
okay.
When you get to DocuSign, you're sending it out until it's executed.
Mhm.
You can complete 6 different offers in DocuSign.
Okay, right,
All the important
within
things
that
are-
one opportunity, instead
Correct,
of having
within
to delete them.
Because remember, the opportunity is one part.
Mhm,
Where you're creating the documents and stuff and it gets messy is really in DocuSign.
mhm.
The moment that you upload something in Command, now you just confused Command.
Right.
So that's what you don't wanna do. That's
Right.
why I always suggest wait until it's executed, because
Mhm.
now there's not much confusion anymore,
Okay.
because we know, okay, this is the executed.
Yeah, okay, this is the
Because your
third
client
one.
is your client.
Fine.
Which
Right.
is what you need
Which
for
is the
client.
opportunity.
Right,
Exactly.
but the moment you you add the property.
So
and-
here's another, yes, in Command, the moment you add the property here,
Yes,
the moment that you create a commission tab,
right.
at
I
that
don't
point,
do
if
that.
you've done all of that, create a second opportunity.
Opportunity, okay.
But to avoid creating multiple opportunities,
Mhm.
create one opportunity, very basic with their name,
Mhm.
and this is only for buyer or for tenant.
Right.
Now, I'm not referring to a listing.
Mhm.
So when it's buyer tenant, very simple opportunity name, do not sync anything
Anything
here. Do not create a commission
No, I never
tab,
do that.
do not upload anything
Uh-huh.
until you have a fully executed offer.
And then I create this one, John Brown, okay, we reach all the way, they change your mind to Western Hills. I
Now,
can just go ahead and change,
yeah, what
and
you
they're
can
sure they're
do,
gonna do Western Hills now, so I just change the opportunity name to 123 Western Hills.
Once it's
And
once it's accepted,
Okay, yes.
I wouldn't do it until it's accepted.
Accepted.
So in the sake of, if you know you have multiple offers that might have to go out, this is number 3. I would do it by address. I would select a folder, 123 Main Street, 2345 Wish It Was Mine, and et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And that way you know, okay, this document belongs here, this document belongs here. And when it's time to come in and actually upload, you choose the working folder based on that property address that's actually the one under contract.
Okay. That
Yeah.
just means 3 different opportunities.
Yeah, you don't have to do
We're on the
anything.
contract, we're right there.
All right, Zoom world, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. I hope you guys caught majority of that conversation. Remember, next week, 1:00, how to get paid and how to get paid fast. So
And
make
come
sure
to
you.
the market center.
Yes, we'll love to have you in person. So have a wonderful day, ladies.
You as
Bye.
well.
You.
Bye. See you
Bye.
both soon tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow, 4:00. 4:00, Adrian will be here discussing the new documents. Oh, Miss Patel, there you go. 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Okay,
4
I'll be there. I'll be there.
See you here. You too,
Okay.
Nina.
Okay, I'll be there. Got it.
See you
All right.
tomorrow. Bye, girls.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.